G'day folks, how you going? It's Brad from the Headshot Guys here. It's Wednesday afternoon, it's just about to click over 1 o'clock. I haven't really caught much up on the news today. I had a bit of a sleep in, which is a little bit unusual for me. But one of the things that I did last night was thinking about the government handout, which obviously I'm going to put my hand up for. So I did something that I hadn't done for a long time. I think going back to my early 20s, I think I was on what they call job seeker for about 2 months there back in, I think it was early 20s maybe. So we're thinking 34 years ago. So I put my hand up for the handout. Now with the website crashing, I have a CRM because I've got kids, which means that we're on a family, I don't know, tax benefit or something or other. So it meant that I didn't have to go to a Centrelink shop, Centrelink office, or I didn't need to call them, which was great. So I could do it all online. So I thought, well, I'm going to get up really early in the morning. So tip for people that are struggling to get onto the website because it's crashing. I'm not sure how it is today. I know for the last couple of days you just couldn't get on there. Because it was overwhelmed with, I think, 100,000 people trying to sign in. I got up 1 a.m, no problems. It still took me, I think it was the better part of about 2.5, 3 hours to go through the process. And, I had my kids' birth certificates, I had bank statements I could get. I had to wake up Yuko to verify that we're in a relationship, which was a bit unusual. She had to get up and log into her account and say, yes, he's my husband, which was kind of a bit strange. But anyway, that was all done. So we ticked all the boxes and have put that in motion, I suppose. Now, I don't know how long that's going to take. My understanding is not till the end of April or something anyway. I'm not quite sure. We'll see what happens down that road. So tips for keeping busy. Now we're pretty much isolated ourselves. The kids are home from school. I'm schooling them at the moment. Well, not really schooling them. There are things that they can do online. So it's a bit of a reward system. Hey, listen, give me a good hour of this and you can have a good hour on an iPad playing Fortnite or whatever the hell they're doing. My kids are very active outside. They both do martial arts, they do Japanese lessons, they do soccer, and we go to the beach a fair bit. But they also do enjoy, and if you let them go, they would sit inside on their iPad all day anyway. So, for some kids it's not such a big deal being that, but how they're looking at it, basically it's just like a weekend. So I'm trying to enforce some schooling into them. I know as we move through reading eggs and Matific, I think it's called, for their maths, that eventually will run out of material, but there are other websites out there that we can go to and get materials for. That doesn't bother me too much. I didn't think there was a lot of confusion. I couldn't believe that people are still confused. It's like, well, this is how it's working. Schools are open. If you want to send them, send them. If you don't, keep them home. Now, if I understand why they're doing that, because there are a lot of healthcare workers, essential services that have kids, and if they have to have their kids at home, well, it effectively means they can't work. So we need those people on the front line. So hey, listen, they've got somewhere to send their kids, which I think is fantastic. It's a great idea. Rather than just go, right, lockdown. So I've decided to keep my kids at home because effectively we can. I'm at home. I normally work from home. Not that I've got any work on at the moment, but that's just the way it is. That's the reality of the situation. So, okay, how am I dealing with the situation? Obviously, it's stressful. I think anytime you have a business, and I've worked bloody hard to build up the business and do what I do. Anytime you have a business and all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation where you have no work, it's a bit scary. Now there is sympathy, there is, I suppose, solace in the fact that I'm not the only one, and there might be somewhere in the vicinity of 1 million people unemployed in the next couple of weeks. That's a bit scary for the economy, I suppose, for the governments, but it's about being positive. Now, I can draw on my time when I had cancer. Some of you may know I had cancer, some of you may not. If you're watching me for the first time, well, I did some 10 years ago. I had throat cancer. I was living in Japan. I started to feel crook. I came back to Australia, was diagnosed with cancer, went through the whole process, chemo, radiation, all that kind of stuff. Pretty shitty time in my life, to, you know, not to sugarcoat it, was pretty crappy. You have a lot of dark times, and psychologically you have a lot of moments where you just go, shit, this is pretty bad. But I got through that by being positive and thinking about the other side of whatever I was going through. So I was determined to get better. I felt always like things were going to get better. I was going to get healthier. I was going to recover. So I was thinking about positive things on the other side of that, and that's how I did it. And I think this probably situation is no different. I'm starting to think already about positive things on the other side of the virus. Now, I have no doubt that we'll get through it. I think that the measures that the government are putting in place, the isolation, there are enough smart people out there, I think, that are self-isolating. The rest of them, you get a little bit disappointed with people that are going, oh yeah, I'm okay, mate, it doesn't affect me, I'm young, I'm healthy. You know, that annoys me a little bit. But hey, listen, what do? You move on, you do what you can do, you try and protect yourself and your family. I know my folks are good, they've got plenty of food, they're sitting in the region up there, so they're going okay. So it's just a matter of being positive. So for me, right now in lockdown, I'm doing stuff that, catching up on stuff that I haven't done, maybe I've neglected a little bit. I'm giving thought to upping and looking at new techniques. I'm improving my craft. I'm looking at new editing techniques, combining Lightroom and Photoshop and making them work better for me so that my images look better. I'm certainly positive that I'll get out the other side of this and I will still be a photographer, and I'll just have to bunker down and hang out as long as I can. I know that there will be a lot of photographers that might go, no, it's too hard, and they'll go off and they'll find something else to do. I'm not in a position where A, I want to do that, or B, I can do that. I'm getting a bit long in the tooth. I'm not sure how employable I am. It's got a message, I've got to get rid of that off the screen. I'm not sure how employable I am. I'm probably very employable. I've got an MBA and done lots of interesting stuff, but I really don't want to do anything else. I love being a photographer. I love shooting headshots. So me moving forward, I need to probably give thought to what my business might look like when we start to bounce. Now, you know, I came from a position, 8-9 years ago when I got better and got up out of bed and was determined to be a photographer, that I decided that's all I wanted to do, was take photos and take pictures and create imagery. So I've managed to do that. These are my two favourite things to create, headshots, corporate headshots in the studio, and wave art, which you can see here. This is one of my favourite images in the studio, hanging in my own studio. So the process I go through with the headshots is about teaching people how to look good in their photos, teaching them about their faces, their better sides, their bigger eyes, their smiles, and how to create a good expression for them. And I love doing that, and I see no reason why that will change. What it might mean, though, for me on the other side of the virus is opening up my business potentially to other things, going back to other things. Like, as I think I started saying 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when I came back and started the business and started thinking about photography, I shot everything. I was doing weddings, I was doing family portraits, I was doing babies, I was doing anything you could imagine. Boats, I was doing commercial buildings. So for me, it might mean opening back up again. Obviously, I narrowed my niche down to pretty much headshots. I do headshots, models, wave art, you know, a few events here and there, but it might mean me opening up and happen to actually explore the idea of doing weddings again. And maybe that, obviously there might be a shortage of wedding photographers when all this gets up. There might be a whole bunch of people that that couldn't have got married when the virus was happening and there was on lockdown, that decide, hey, listen, I'm going to get married. So maybe that's an option for me going forward. So that's certainly something I'm going to be exploring, options to think about, how my business might look on the other side of this thing. Obviously the kids are a little bit older. I stopped doing weddings primarily because most of them are weekends and I wanted to be able to spend some time with my kids. Obviously, yes, that is still a priority, but certainly moving forward, I want to remain a photographer. So, and I'll do anything and everything in my power to enable myself to be able to do that. So, that means shooting weddings on a weekend, or at least one on a weekend, or two on a weekend. So be it. That's just the way it's going to have to be. So, so that's interesting. Looking at different editing techniques at the moment as well, how that looks for me moving forward. Obviously, certainly my studio craft, where I'm actually coaching somebody into a headshot look, I feel is quite good. It can always be tweaked, and obviously I tweak it for each individual person that comes into my studio, but being able to then get that image on a screen and be able to tweak it using the tools in Lightroom and Photoshop is something that I've never spent a lot of time doing. I don't believe in changing stuff too much. I try and shoot as much as possible in the camera, but understanding that I can always improve what I do in my editing techniques to make my images look better. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about, making my images look as good as possible. So whether that's improving my headshot coaching session, or whether it's working on new techniques for editing the imagery that I shoot, then that's again something that I'll work on. Maybe work on some new marketing techniques. So there's some stuff I can create that will enhance my ability to get my stuff out there. Now obviously some of you won't be seeing my head at this particular point in time. You'll be seeing my imagery flash across the screen. And these are some of the headshots that I do. Maybe I should start incorporating some weddings into this, some of my wave art into these videos, where you're not just seeing headshots and models, you're seeing some of my wave art, some of my products, some of my product shoots, some of my boat shoots, some of my weddings, etc., etc. So there's a whole scope of things that I'm going to start concentrating on, start thinking about. I'm already thinking about the other side of the virus, how it's going to work, how it's going to look. Yes, things will change, but change is not a bad thing. We can adapt. We are pretty adaptable humans. I think the world's going to be a different place, I suspect. I think it probably gives people an opportunity. And, you know, I often talk about this. I talk to some business groups, and I talk about this in relation to cancer and my decision to choose photography. You know, I come out of cancer, I had no money, I barely had a place to live. And it was about, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And that's kind of really powerful when you sort of go, well, I'm bare bones, I've got no money, I've got no debt, I've got nothing. What am I going to do? I can pretty much do whatever the hell I wanted. So I wonder how many people will have a really good look at what they're doing or what they had been doing before the virus, and going, hey shit, I don't really like that. I don't want to do that anymore. let's find something that I really, really like doing, and let's work out how I might turn that into a business, how I might earn some money from doing that. I understand there's going to be a huge economic ramifications about mortgages being on hold, about hopefully rent being on hold. We'll see how that goes. But it means that people can have almost press the reset button, which is, people talk to me and I go, sometimes I feel lucky that I had cancer. I know it's a horrible thing to say, because it was a shitty time in my life and gave myself and those around me a lot of stress, but it enabled me to really sit back or lie back in my sense and go, what do I want to do with the rest of my life, and how is the rest of my life going to look, and effectively press the reset button. Now, I'd been lucky. I'd had some really interesting jobs. I'd been nightclub manager. I'd been a PI. I was living in Japan, teaching English, being a surf photographer. So I'd done some interesting things, but I'd never really honed in on, taking images as a full-time living. And that's what I focused on, and that's hopefully what I'll be able to continue to do. So maybe it will give some people the opportunity to press the reset button and go, hey, I've had this job. It's a crappy job. I don't really like it. Let's see what else I can do. What do I really like doing? What do I really want to do? And things like money, and we might start to appreciate the better things in life, like going to the beach, hanging out with the family, hanging out with the kids. So hopefully there's some positive things come out of this, and it's not all doom and gloom. Yeah, it's going to be tough in the next few weeks, a month, 2 months. I'm not quite sure how long it's going to last. There are different opinions about what's happening and how it's all going to look. But we just got to hunker down and support each other and hopefully get through it. So that's me. That's all you get for today. It's a long one. 17 minutes is telling me. Stay healthy. Stay sane. That's it. See you later. I'm Brad from the Headshot Guys. Wash your hands.